we've had the first fish of the session. I literally just got into bed and the right hand rod started bleeping, and then the middle rod, and then the left hand rod as well. My first Stanwick Lakes fish. Now we starting to talk, let's kill another progress. Really hard to process. So happy to be off the mark. Baby, we toxic, can't we stay on topic? I feel like we lost it, feel like we lost it. Take my love, don't waste it. Even though I don't mind waiting. Latest my mind. Absolutely made up with that. Welcome to another video, and as is often the way with my videos, I'm in my car. I've just got my ferry over from the Isle of Wight to the mainland in Southampton. I've just stopped at Tesco's for a few supplies. I'm going for 48 hours of fishing, and up until 5 minutes ago I didn't actually know where I was going to go because it was all a bit last minute this session. But I've just found Stanwick Lakes up in Northamptonshire, and they've got space on Mallard, so they've set up my right to go and do 48 hours fishing on there. So really excited, never been to the place before. I nearly went the other week, but we ended up going somewhere else instead. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a place I've heard a lot about. I've seen a few videos on there. It looks like a great fishery, and it's handy because after this session I'm going on somewhere else which is local to that area as well. So that's why I've gone sort of up in that area, quite a long way from home for me, but supposedly good fishing, good for a few bites. We're in summer now, it's July, so I'll take you through all my tactics for fishing at this time of year. I'm fishing on a busy day ticket lake, something that I don't do that often, but hopefully I can get a decent swim on a few fish and hopefully put a few fish together on the bank for you. So yeah, we're going to get on the road now. I think it's about 2.5 hours drive, and I'll catch up with you when we get to the lakes. Right, so as you can see, we've now arrived at Stanwick Lakes on Mallard, and it looks like a beautiful place. It's really nice, sort of wooded surroundings and well-built swims and everything. You might see that one behind me there. Nice platform and nice and comfy. So yeah, I'm just having a walk around, seeing what I can see, and then I'll leave my bucket and that in a swim so I can go back to the car and get my gear. So I'm going to do a lap of the lake, try and find some fish, and I'll catch up to you when I know where I'm going to be fishing. Right, so here I am in my swim now. I'm not sure of the swim number. I couldn't see any numbers on the swims, but basically I'm the furthest swim along on the east bank of Mallard Lake before you get to Elson's down that end, which is the sort of booking venue. I think you have to sort of book up on there. But this lake is just a day ticket, and you can kind of turn up and pay in the shop when you get here and then just help yourself basically. So I've come down here because there's a nice wind trickling across, and it seemed like most of the fish that I saw were down this end as well. I didn't really see anything up the other end, maybe the odd subtle sign of fish just under the surface, but this end there's been a few fish actually rolling, you know, head and shouldering out. And I've also seen coots diving in front of this swim, which is an indication that there's maybe some bait down there from a previous angler or something. I was watching them just before I went and got the rest of my kit, and then a fish rolled in amongst the coots. So I'm pretty sure there's some fish in the swim, quite short range, about 30 yards out, which is handy because it's nice, easy fishing. And down that end of the lake, the sort of north end, if you like, of the lake, there's actually some aerators pumping bubbles. And I thought that would be a good area to target. But when I went down there, there was actually a guy sort of fishing that area, and I didn't want to kind of cross lines with him or anything. You know, being a busy day ticket, I like to give people a bit of space. And if someone's kind of fishing in an area, you don't want to kind of step on their toes, really. So I've gone here as sort of near as I can get to where I've seen the fish, really. And actually, I have seen a fish roll in this swim as well. So rather than get loads of bait out now and lead up and make loads of disturbance, I'm just going to get 3 singles out just for now to see if I can nick a bite early. Then I'm going to get my bivvy up and everything else sort of tidied, and then this evening I'll maybe think about getting some bait out when the coots have kind of moved off and everything, and hopefully we can nick an early bite. But if not, I feel like we're in with a good shout kind of tonight or tomorrow morning, so I'm going to get cracking now, get some singles out there, and I'll catch up to you a little bit later on. Right guys, so all I've done is got 2 rods out there. Hopefully you can see. One rod, my right hand rod, is going off a little bit to the right, just on a single pink pop-up, right where I saw a fish show when I was watching from the swim. And then my left hand rod is just on a little amino marine wafter, a little dumbbell wafter with a little tiny bag of pellets just nicked on. Both rods went down with an absolutely solid crack, so I'm really happy that I've got some clear spots in the swim. Just with 2 casts, I found 2 nice clear spots already. And yeah, I'm feeling fairly confident, but all I've put is, you know, a bag on one and a single on the other for now. Just going to get everything else set up and then make a plan what I'm going to do for the rest of the session. So I just wanted to update you with what I've done so far. As you can see, I haven't got my bivvy up yet, but I've got my bed chair at the back of the swim and everything's kind of in place where it would be if the bivvy was up. So, you know, oh, just had a bird go through one of my lines and we're all good. Yeah, so I've just got everything kind of tidy, and all I need to do now is put my bivvy up. But it's only 3 o'clock and it doesn't get dark till 10 at the moment because it's July, so there's no point getting a bivvy up straight away, really. Might as well concentrate on watching the water, just seeing where the fish are showing and trying to sort of work out exactly where I'm going to put my 3 rods. The fish, because the water's quite deep out there, I think it must be 8 to 10 foot on feeling the drop. The fish seem to be sort of up near the surface and sort of showing up near the top as well, so I definitely think a zig on one rod is going to be worth a try, but also I'm going to get some bait on the bottom and try and get a spot going, because I've got 48 hours, you know, and if I can get a few fish visiting, I might be able to put a hit of fish together. So that's my plan, really. I'm just going to leave these 2 rods out that I've put out at the moment. I'm just going to leave them fishing for a couple more hours probably, just in case there's any fish in the area that are sort of feeding on any bait that was left from previous anglers and stuff. I don't want to kind of spook them off if there's fish there already. But then at some point, you know, I am going to have to get some bait out there and find some spots properly, so I'm going to do that a little bit later on. I've just knocked up a bit of a bait mix that I'm going to use on this session. Apparently it's a fairly pellet-dominated water because the fish are kind of reared on pellets and they're fed on pellets as well, and obviously lots of people use pellets when they're fishing, so it's a good idea to have them in the mix. So I've got 2 different types of pellets. I've got some amino ester pellets and some micro-amino pellets mixed in. So you've got a low oil pellet which breaks down fairly quick, and then a more oily pellet which should stay on the bottom a little bit longer but also give off attraction up in the layers where the fish seem to be and hopefully pull them down. So 2 different types of pellets, and then I've got also 2 different types of boilies. I've got some amino marine, which is like a fish meal, kind of red spicy bait, and then I've got some amino ester, which is like a a fruity, creamy sort of nut-based bait, and I've just kind of crumbed them up in the mix, mixed it all up, and then I've added some liquids to that. I've got some pure marine extracts, which is like a salty shellfish extract liquid. It's quite a runny one, that one, so it sort of leaches out. And then I've got a thicker liquid, which is the amino marine food liquid, which is a thicker one, which will kind of cling to the bait and kind of seep into the lake bed a little bit. And I've also put some hot salmon oil on there as well, just to kind of boost that attraction up in the layers a little bit more and try and pull the fish down. So I've got 3 different liquids, 2 different pellets and 2 different types of boilies, so it's a real nice mix. And then the final ingredient is a little bit of Himalayan rock salt as well. I think at any time of year, you know, salt's a good addition to your bait mix. And I think, you know, the fish have just spawned in the last month or so, so they're going to be looking to replenish the salts that they lost during spawning. And it's just a good attractant all round anyway, so I've added that to the mix. And I've mixed it up now so that it can all soak in, because there's lots of liquids in there. I've added a little bit of lake water as well, just to kind of studge it up so the pellets start breaking down. And hopefully, you know, you get a bit of a cloud as it's going through the water, which can help pull the fish down as well. So that's my bait mix. I'm probably going to fish wafters on all 3 rods, because the spots are fairly hard out there. And I think pop-ups are a little bit blatant. I've got one out at the moment on a single, because, you know, I didn't really know what the bottom was like out there. So I put a pop-up out just to make sure it's presented, but it felt really hard when it dropped down. So I think I can get away with wafters. Perhaps fish a little PVA bag of pellets on it, just to sort of protect the hook in case there are any bits of weed out there. So that's my kind of plan so far. But for the next couple of hours, I'm just going to watch the water, see if I can see any more fish showing and that sort of thing, and then I'm going to start trying to find a couple of spots out in front to actually get some bait out. And then I'll fish on them spots tonight. And I'll probably have a zig out there to sort of roam around as well. But if I start getting bites on the bottom, then I'll probably put all 3 rods on the bottom as well. So that's where we're up to, and that's my sort of thought process so far. It's quite busy, you know, it's not crazy, but there's probably 7 or 8 swims taken on this lake. It's only sort of a 4 or 5 acre lake, so, you know, people are dotted around, so the fish are hopefully moving around, you know, on the pressure of people fishing near them. But I have got the wind trickling in nicely down this end, and a little bit towards this swim as well. And I've got a nice sort of reed line bait on the right where I think the fish will quite like getting in and out of. So I've got the patrol route in and out of there covered as well. So I feel like I've got a good swim. I've seen fish, and I've sort of started minimal and hopefully build it up from there. Right, so I've given these 2 rods a good 2 or 3 hours now, and nothing's really happened. I've had a couple of bleeps on each one, but there's quite a lot of small fish in the margins and stuff, so it could just be them hitting the line. So what I'm going to do is bring them in, and then I'm going to have a little marker about just trying to find a couple of spots, get some bait out, and then get some rods out for the night. So everything's all set, and I can just sit back and relax then. So both rigs have come back pretty clean, so that's a good sign. So I'm just going to try and have minimal casts with the marker, just to find exactly what it's like out there and the depth and stuff. And also finding the depth allows me to fish a zig accurately. Six, 7 foot. So it's 7 foot, but it's quite close in, that one. I want to go a little bit further, just on the sort of wind line really, where I've seen most of the fish. So I'm picking some far bank markers, like the swims on the far side and the dips in the trees, just so I know I can fish at night to the spots as well. Goes down with a nice crack. And it pulls back fairly easy as well, so I'm thinking it's pretty clear out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 foot. So it's pretty much 7 foot out there. Just pull back gently, and it feels really clear, which is good. Sort of gravelly, patchy silt. And pretty uniform everywhere as well. Not finding any weed so far. Just seems pretty clear out there, so makes it nice and easy for presentation. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 foot. So out to my right is just 7 foot clear bottom, which is decent for fishing on. I'm just going to try a little bit further round to my left now as well. Solid there as well. Right, from what I've heard on here, they do like a bit of bait. There's about 350 carp in this lake, so obviously you're going to be fairly hungry. So I'm going to probably start with 15 or so spoms and see how we get on from there. Right, these are my 2 rigs that I'm going to be fishing on this session. So I've got my favourite sort of pop-up rig there, which is a Wivy pool rig with a little white amino ester pop-up, just on the off chance that there's weed around. Thought I'd try a pop-up on one rod. So that's there. Just fish with an inline lead because it's really solid out there, and I'm only fishing at 40 yards, so I don't need to cast very far. An inline lead gives you better hooking capabilities than a lead clip. I think most people fish lead clips. Fish get used to them, so I try and fish an inline where I can. That's sort of semi-fixed, so it'll run up the line when the fish takes, and then you won't be able to use the weight of the lead to shake it. So that's my pop-up rig with a little white one on there, and then I've got a wafter rig, which is a Amnesia D rig with a little white SS1 wafter on there. Hopefully you can see that there, just sits nicely above the bottom, and the hook's on the bottom, so the fish can't really see it, and it's, you know, it's an Amnesia rig, so it's quite subtle as well. When the fish picks it up, the hook drops like that. Hopefully finds the bottom lip. So I'm going to get these out now, and then I'm probably going to put my 3rd rod on the bottom as well for tonight, and then I'll try zigs tomorrow if it's hot again. But as the light's fading and it's cooling off, I think I might as well go all 3 on the bottom. Okay, so the time is about 5 to 9 now, and the sun is rapidly disappearing over the trees over the far side of the lake. It's a beautiful evening, really still now, the wind's dropped right off. I've had the sun blaring in the bivvy for the sort of latter part of the afternoon, so it's been really hot. I had to put some factor 50 on just to protect myself from getting scorched, but it's been nice, you know, I can't complain. Being out in the summer is really nice, isn't it? And what we live for as carp anglers, really, it's a lovely peaceful place down here. Got lots of bird life and wildlife in general, really, and yeah, it's been nice and relaxing, but nothing's happened on the fish front, unfortunately. But this time of year, really, you are looking at the night time, sort of late evening, through the night and early morning really is the best time for a bite, because in the daytime the fish are kind of just cruising around in the upper layers mostly, and you know, you can get them on the top or on zigs and things like that, but it's quite hard to get a bite on the bottom when it's warm at this time of year. So I am sort of edging my bets really for the night period and that early morning tomorrow morning. Hopefully the fish will be coming round in packs looking for patches of bait, and hopefully I'll pick up a couple of fish, but you just never know really. I haven't seen anything show for 2 or 3 hours now, so it might mean that the fish have kind of got their heads down a little bit more. They're not as near the surface as they were, but I'll definitely be trying to zig through the day tomorrow. Earlier on I wound in one of the rods, and actually there was a bit of debris on the hook, you know, just little bits of weed and stuff like that. So rather than just hooking my bag on, I've actually slid it down the hook link now so the hook's inside. So I think that will just sit on top of any debris a bit better and protect the hook a little bit more. So hopefully it'll be presented when a fish hopefully comes along. So yeah, that's where we're up to now. Got 3 rods out there, over a bit of bait, where I've seen fish, and yeah, it's looking good. I've just got to wait and see now, and hopefully the fish will come along and have a little munch. Right, good morning. Must admit, I didn't sleep very much last night. There's all sorts of wildlife around here, and I even had a hedgehog at one point coming in my bivvy, and he was trying to get in my bag of rubbish. I've never ever had that before, so I've had to hang my bag up in the tree now to keep it out of the way. And there's a couple of rats and things as well. We are in a sort of a foresty area here, so you know, there's going to be wildlife, and also anglers' bait lying around, and you know, spod spill and stuff like that. There's always going to be wildlife, and with so many lakes around here that you know, there's a lot of anglers, so it's always going to be a problem. And yeah, it's kept me awake all night really, having lots of rodents coming in the bivvy. I kind of wish I'd put the ground sheet in and sit the door down, and I maybe would have got a better night's sleep. But I always like to have the door open just so I can see the water if I hear a show or anything, and also, you know, run to the rod quickly if I get a take. So that's just the way I like to do it. But on the fishing front, nothing's happened, unfortunately. There were quite a lot of fish showing over my sort of baited areas. I feel like fish were definitely in the zones, and I've had a couple of liners as well. This morning the left rod and the middle rod have both had pretty sort of strong liners. So I feel like maybe the fish have been in and had a feed, and I've just not been able to pick them up. So I'm starting to think my presentation maybe isn't the best out there. So today I'm going to have a bit of a change up. I'm going to go with lead clips instead of the inlines that I was using, just because I think if it's a bit soft or there's a bit of debris, you know, it can sink in a little bit more before it pulls your hook link in. You know, with an inline, that can go in quite easy and stick the hook link up a bit of an awkward angle, so it's bad presentation and the fish can kind of suss it out. But if you've got a lead clip, it can you know, sink in a little bit and still leave your hook link lying on the top. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do lead clips, and also when I was speaking to, I think it's called Phil, the bailiff or one of the owners perhaps, that came and spoke to me yesterday, he said that little pop-ups are worth a go, you know, kind of low-lying, kind of 12mm pop-ups. And I do have a pop-up on one rod, but it's a sort of a 14-15mm, and it's quite a high one because it's a withy pool rig, you know, so it's probably a couple of inches off the bottom. And maybe that's a bit too blatant, you know, these are pressured day ticket fish. They've seen it all over the last few years, I imagine, and maybe a sort of a lower pop-up, just to get you out of any debris on the bottom, but still be quite low. Maybe that's the sort of way to go on here, particularly in this swim, because there seems to be, when I wind in, just a little bit of rubbish on the hook, you know, just little bits of dead weed and sort of silkweedy type stuff here and there. So I think it's not perfectly clean out there, so a little low pop-up. So I don't really like using Ronnie rigs. I feel like they can, you know, give you poor hook holds and stuff. I know a lot of people like them, but I like to use just a bog standard kind of coated braid pop-up rig with a little liner on there and a hook ring on the shank. I'll show you that when I do it, but I'm going to have to tie some of those up. So I'm going to change all the rods over to that after kind of this morning bite time period, and get a bit more bait out, probably you know, around lunchtime, and get the rods out again, maybe sort of 3-4 o'clock. Just give it a couple or 3 hours just to rest while the bait's, you know, gone out, and then get the rods out again for the night. And I'm definitely going to have one on the zig as well, because I think there's been a few fish up in the water, so maybe I'll have a zig rod out today whilst everything's kind of settling, and then get back on the bottom for tonight, and hopefully I can nick a bite. After I've kind of learned something about the lake, you know, it's the first time I've been here, you've got to kind of experiment and see what works, and you can't always catch straight away on a new venue, so that's my kind of thought process of where we're up to now. I'm just going to have my first cup of tea of the day, and then stick a bacon sandwich on, and keep watching the water, and hopefully I can see something. Right guys, it's really quiet, there's no signs of fish showing anywhere, and the sun's out already and the temperature's rising, so I'm going to get a zig out and leave it out there for the day, because they're obviously not really having it on the bottom. I haven't seen anyone else catch anything. So as you saw there, I've just wound in one of my rods to put a zig out. There's no fizzing this morning, there's no head and shouldering or rolling or anything. The fish don't really seem to be feeding on the bottom, so I've got to make changes. So I've put a zig out there. I'm leaving the other two rods out on the bait, just because, you know, we're still in that morning feeding time, but I thought I'd get a zig out there a little bit off the bait, a little bit further out in the middle, where I've seen the fish kind of sort of showing a little bit more yesterday, and I'm hoping that as it warms up they'll be sort of up in the layers and they'll come cruising through and hopefully find that. I've just used a trimmed down black pop-up on there, so it looks like, you know, a bit of foam is always a favourite for a zig, but I've got these black pop-ups, the Vitamino G from Pure Bait Concepts, which are perfect for zigs, really trimmed down to a sort of dumbbell shape, but it's also got a little bit of smell to it as well, so where the water's not crystal clear, I think a little bit of smell could just help bring the fish in and investigate that. So it's a 6 foot zig in 8 foot of water, so I'm 2 foot under the surface. I was thinking that the fish are going to be in that sort of zone when it really warms up in a bit, so the rod's out there ready for when they hopefully arrive. When I wound in that rod, there was actually a little bit of just kind of like dead weed on it, really. I think the bottom out there is a bit sort of messy, a bit kind of choddy, and I'm thinking like pop-ups are going to be the way to go on all the rods tonight when I get fishing back on the bait later. I'm not that confident in the presentation at the moment with wafters on the other rods. So I think just a really low line pop-up could give me better presentation, but not be sort of too blatant that it'll put the fish off taking it. So that's my plan for now. I'm going to leave the rods out till about lunchtime, and then I wind in the 2 rods on the bait, maybe put a little bit more bait out, just to hopefully like freshen the area and bring the fish in again later on, and then get the rods out for the night again, and hopefully we can make something happen for the last 24 hours of the session. Right guys, so I've had a zig out there for a good 3 or 4 hours now, and there's been loads of fish showing in the area near the surface with their backs out the water cruising around, and there's also been a few fish kind of tail slapping near the top, so I really feel like they're feeding on something up in the layers, but they don't seem to be interested in the zig for some reason. I've played around with the depth a little bit of it as well, and that hasn't made a difference. I've been getting liners on it, which is weird. Normally with the zig, you know, you either get a take or it's just quiet. You don't really get liners when the fish are up in the water. So I'm wondering whether they're feeding on the bait that's out there from yesterday, and perhaps bumping into the line, and the ones that are kind of jumping out and showing are perhaps you know, fish that are feeding, that are coming up head and shouldering, just clearing the gills out after they've been feeding the silt. So I am contemplating getting the rods out on the bottom again, because the zig's not working. So I've got to try something, haven't I? I know I've only given it 4 hours, but you know, I feel like when there's that many fish in the area, if they're not getting caught, then you've got to do something different. So I'm going to get my 3 rods back out now. I'm having a complete change of tactics, because I think I said earlier when I wound in my rigs, there was bits of debris and stuff on the hook, just little bits of silkweed and things on the bottom, and I just wasn't that confident with my presentation. So what I'm doing is I'm going to fish 2 rods on Old Faithful solid bags. Not a tactic that I do very often, but in this situation, you know, it sits on the bottom like that and then just opens out on top of any weed, and I've got a little wafter in there which will just kind of sit in amongst that pile of pellets and be protected from any sort of debris and weed that's on the bottom. It's all low lying stuff, so it's not going to sort of plummet right into it. It should just open out and have a little parcel ready for the fish to come and take it. So I'm going to have 2 rods on that. And because the bailiff said that low lying pop-ups work on here, I've made this rig here, which is essentially just a knotless knot to a size 6 curved shanked hook, with a little liner sort of kicker on it, just to help it turn really. And I've got a little cork ball pop-up on there, which is only a 12 miller, and I feel like that was just going to sit nicely over that weed as well, but not be too high that it's going to be really sort of conspicuous to the fish, because I think they are quite wise in here. You know, they've been fished for a long time by a lot of people. You know, it's a busy day ticket. So a little low-lying pop-up rather than my withy pool rig that I had on one of my rods last night might just be the thing that trips them up. If they come sort of sifting through all the bits and bobs that are on the bottom, that might just get sucked up with it as well, and that's what I'm hoping anyway. So I'm going to have 2 solid bags and a little pop-up out there. I might put a little bit more bait out just to make sure there's a bit of fresh sort of scent in the area, and those oils and stuff that are in the mix will hopefully draw the fish down if they are up in the layers as well. So that's what I'm going to do now, and let's hope it works. Right, that's it. I've got my 3 rods out fishing now. My right hand rod and my middle rod on solid bags, and my left hand rod is on that really low pop-up rig. And that's all I can do now really. I've tried a zig all day, it's not worked. There's been fish cruising around and sort of rolling a little bit in my area, basically in my swim all day, and they just don't seem to be taking the zigs, and they don't look like they're feeding on the bottom really either. It's probably too windy for floaters, and the bird life would probably be a nightmare as well. So all I can do now is go back out on the bottom and hope that this evening, tonight or tomorrow morning, something's going to happen. So I'm just going to get a little bit more bait out now, just to freshen up the area, and hopefully the liquids and the oils and stuff in that will pull the fish down and draw them into the area, and they might come in and have a feed tonight. I feel like they're due a feed. You know, they didn't really feed the last 24 hours while I've been here. I think there's been one fish caught on the whole lake out of about 6 or 7 anglers, and out of 350 fish in the lake, one fish out of all them isn't very many. So I'd like to think that they're going to be looking for some food, and potentially might get the heads down tonight, so we'll have to wait and see. But I've done all I can for now, so I've just got to get a bit more bait out, and then that's me for the evening. Right guys, as you can hopefully see there, we've had the first fish of the session. It's midnight on the second night. I literally just got into bed and the right hand rod started bleeping, and then the middle rod, and then the left hand rod as well. This fish had taken the rig on the right of the spot and then kited across to the left, wiped out my other 2 rods, but I've managed to get it in the net. And there he is, my first Stanwick Lakes fish from Mallard. 21 pound, 8 ounces, taken on a solid bag with micro-amino pellets and a white SS1 wafter. Dead simple. It feels like he's just gonna go. He's a bit mental, this one. Yeah, dead simple tactics. Just fished over that mix I showed you of the pellets and all the liquids and boilies and stuff. And yeah, it's taken me a while to get my first bite, but so happy to be off the mark. And this may be the only fish, but it's still only midnight, so there's still that morning bite period to go. So yeah, I'll get some stills of him, because he's a beautiful linear. I'll get him back, and then I've got 3 rods to sort out now. So it's all fun and games, but it's definitely worth it. Right, good morning, and unfortunately there's been no more fish through the night. After that fish wiped out all 3 rods, I wasn't feeling that confident, because obviously the swim's had quite a lot of disturbance with the lines being dragged across it, and I haven't really seen any more fish showing or anything like that. And then the coots have started diving again this morning and took out one of my rods, so you might see over here there's only 2 rods fishing, but yeah, we're coming to the end of the session now. Just had my breakfast and I'm going to start packing up. It's been an enjoyable time here. I quite like this lake actually. It's quite a nice setting, you know, you're in the woods and stuff, as you can sort of see behind me. Hopefully it's quite dark, but yeah, it's a nice place to be. And I'm so glad that I managed that fish last night. It's really sort of saved my session really. It's been hard fishing on here. Everyone I've spoken to said the same. The fish just haven't really been up for it. There's a lot of fish in here, but I think they've been on the naturals, you know, they've been slashing about on the top, maybe feeding on the fry and stuff. And even a zig wasn't good enough to tempt them. So I feel like I got fairly lucky nicking that one on a solid bag last night. So definitely want to come back here again. Hopefully get my timing better when the fish are a bit more on the feed. Maybe come in the autumn time or something like that, and have a few more fish, but I did manage that one, so yeah, I'm really pleased about that. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Make sure you like it, leave a comment and subscribe to the Prologic YouTube channel. Got lots of videos coming this year, lots of exciting adventures coming up, so make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.